In the vastness of the galaxy, Earth was not the only world with intelligent life. There were many different civilizations scattered across the stars, each with its own unique abilities and cultures. Some were peaceful, others were warriors. But among all these different species, there was one that no one had ever truly accepted. The Virillian race had once been a thriving species, living on a lush planet filled with forests that glowed in the dark, oceans teeming with colorful creatures, and skies where birds of all shapes and sizes flew freely. Their planet was a wonder, unlike any other in the galaxy. The Virillians themselves were peaceful beings, known for their intelligence and deep understanding of energy. They had mastered the art of using light in ways that no other species could. Their bodies glowed with soft colors, a sign of their connection to the natural energies of their world. But that peaceful existence came to an end when disaster struck. A cataclysmic event shattered their homeworld, tearing apart the planet's core and causing massive earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. In the blink of an eye, the once thriving civilization was reduced to rubble. The Virillians were forced to flee, searching for safety in the stars. But no matter where they went, they were always rejected. Other civilizations looked down on them, calling them weak and unworthy. The Galactic Council, a group made up of the most powerful alien civilizations, saw the Virillians as a threat to the order they had built. Their energy manipulation abilities, though peaceful in nature, were seen as too unpredictable, too dangerous. The Council's members believed that the Virillians, with their knowledge and powers, could one day become a dangerous force if left unchecked. So they made a decision. The Virillians would not be allowed to join the galactic community. They would be cast out. And so, the Virillians became wanderers, exiles in their own right, drifting from system to system, always searching for a place to call home. Some tried to make new homes on distant moons, while others found refuge in the hidden corners of the galaxy. They built small, secret colonies in forgotten places, trying to rebuild their shattered culture. Yet, no matter how hard they tried, no other civilization would accept them. The alien races that looked down on them ignored their pleas, refused to offer help. It was as if the Virillians were invisible, or worse, as if they didn't matter at all. To the other species, the Virillians were nothing more than a symbol of weakness and failure. There was one place, however, that the Virillians had never thought to go: Earth. The humans, unlike the other civilizations, were not part of the Galactic Council. They were a young species, just beginning to explore the stars, still learning about the vast universe around them. They had their own problems and wars to deal with, but they were different. Humans were known for their curiosity, their willingness to help those in need. It was a small human exploration ship that first encountered the Virillians. The ship, the Explorer 7, was on a routine mission to map uncharted systems. As it passed by a small, lifeless moon on the edge of the galaxy, the crew picked up an unusual energy signature. It was faint, but unmistakable. It was the kind of signature that only the Virillians could produce. Captain Linda Hayes, the commander of the Explorer 7, knew the history of the Virillians. She knew they were a species rejected by the galaxy, but she had always believed that one day someone would step forward and help them. The captain's heart ached when she heard about the Virillians' plight. She ordered the ship to investigate the source of the energy signal. When the crew arrived at the moon, they were shocked to find a small Virillian colony hidden in the caves beneath the surface. The Virillians, weak and desperate, had barely enough resources to survive. Their glowing bodies, once vibrant and full of life, now flickered dimly as if the energy they had once harnessed was slowly fading away. Despite their circumstances, the Virillians greeted the humans with warmth and hope. They were not afraid, not angry. They simply needed help, a chance to rebuild, to be accepted once again. Captain Hayes and her crew were moved by their story. They couldn't stand to see such a peaceful race living in fear and isolation. After a long discussion, the decision was made. The humans would not turn their backs on the Virillians. They would offer help, protection, and most importantly, acceptance. The The Virilians would no longer be alone. Humanity would be their shield. Little did the crew of the Explorer 7 know, their decision would change the course of galactic history forever. Captain Linda Hayes stood on the bridge of the Explorer 7, staring out at the distant stars. The soft hum of the ship's engines was the only sound in the quiet command room. She had never expected to find anything extraordinary in this part of the galaxy. But now, as the crew approached the moon where the Virilians had hidden, she could feel the weight of the moment. The Virilians were unlike any species the humans had ever encountered. Their gentle nature, their peaceful ways, and their incredible knowledge of energy were all things that drew Captain Hayes to them. But what struck her the most was how these beings had been rejected by the galaxy. A species with so much potential, abandoned because they were too different. Humanity would not, turn away from them. As the Explorer 7 descended toward the moon's surface, the crew prepared for a first contact unlike any other. The Virilians had not expected help, let alone from a species they had never known. But when the small human ship landed in the cave systems where the Virilians had made their homes, they were met with a sight that few could imagine. The Virilians came forward, their bodies glowing softly in the dim light of the moon's caves. Their skin shimmered like the surface of a calm ocean, and their eyes were large and filled with an understanding of the universe that made them seem wise beyond their years. But there was a sadness behind their glowing eyes. These were not the proud, strong people they once were. They were survivors, clinging to life in a galaxy that had forgotten them. Captain Hayes stepped off the ship, her heart heavy with empathy for these gentle beings. The Virilians did not approach with fear or hostility. Instead, they moved forward with cautious hope, sensing the sincerity in the humans' presence. They had lived for so long in isolation, but now, for the first time in years, they felt the warmth of acceptance. "Welcome," said Captain Hayes, her voice gentle but firm. "We are here to help. We are not like the others who turned their backs on you." A Virilian elder stepped forward, his body glowing with a soft blue light. His voice was calm but filled with emotion as he spoke, his words echoing in the cave. "You are the first to offer us kindness," he said. "For so long we have wandered, alone and abandoned. We thought no one would care. But you offer us hope." Captain Hayes smiled, a feeling of relief washing over her. She knew they had made the right decision. "You are not alone anymore. Humanity will protect you. We will help you rebuild, and we will make sure the galaxy knows you are worthy." The Virilians looked at each other, their faces showing a mixture of disbelief and gratitude. The elder turned back to the captain, his eyes bright with unshed tears. "How can we ever repay you?" he asked. "You don't need to," Captain Hayes replied. "We're doing this because it's the right thing. No one deserves to be forgotten or rejected. We will stand by you." With that, the humans and Virilians began to discuss plans for the future. The Virilians, despite their weakened state, still had much to offer. Their knowledge of energy manipulation could help humanity in ways that no other species could. They could teach the humans how to harness light in ways that would change the course of technology. But more importantly, the Virilians could offer humanity something more valuable than any technology: hope. In the days that followed, the humans and Virilians worked together to bring the small Virilian colony back to life. The humans shared their knowledge of space travel and advanced engineering, while the Virilians taught them how to manipulate energy, creating a partnership that was based on mutual respect and understanding. But as the days passed, the crew of the Explorer 7 began to realize something more troubling. The Virilians weren't the only ones out there. The Galactic Council had eyes everywhere, and they would not simply let humanity help the Virilians without consequences. The news of the alliance between humanity and the Virilians soon spread across the galaxy, and it didn't take long for the powerful civilizations that made up the Galactic Council to take notice. One evening, as Captain Hayes stood on the bridge of the Explorer 7, she received a communication from Earth. It was a message from the United Earth government. The message was clear and to the point. Cease all contact with the Virilians. You are violating galactic law. Captain Hayes frowned as she listened to the message. The humans had only just begun to help, and already the galaxy's most powerful civilizations were demanding that they stop. It was then that she realized just how dangerous their decision had become. The Virilians were a symbol of everything the galaxy feared, but humanity had made its choice. There was no going back now. We will protect them, Captain Hayes said softly to herself, her eyes fixed on the distant stars. No matter the cost. The news of humanity's alliance with the Virilians quickly spread across the galaxy. The Virilians, once rejected by every advanced civilization, now had the protection of Earth. But the moment the Galactic Council caught wind of this new partnership, they were not pleased. They had decided long ago that the Virilians were a threat to the order of the galaxy, and no one was to offer them help. Yet here was humanity, a young species that had barely begun to explore the stars, standing against the Council's will. It didn't take long for the Council to send a message to Earth. The message was stern and direct. Humanity is in violation of galactic law. You are not to interact with the Virilians. Withdraw your support immediately or face the consequences. Captain Linda Hayes sat in her quarters aboard the Explorer 7, reading the message over and over again. The Council's words were harsh, but she was not afraid. The Virilians needed their help, and humanity had made a promise. She was not about to break it. The situation was tense. Earth was now facing an enormous challenge. The Galactic Council controlled vast fleets of powerful ships, and they had the power to make life difficult for humanity. But Captain Hayes was not worried about the Council's threats. She knew humanity was different. They had always been the underdogs in the galaxy, but it was in those moments of struggle that they thrived. Despite the Council's warnings, humanity continued to stand by the Virilians. The small Explorer 7 became a symbol of their defiance, and the people of Earth rallied behind their government's decision to protect the peaceful race. News outlets on Earth broadcasted reports about the Virilians, showing their peaceful culture and their desire for a second chance. Humanity's message was clear. We will not allow anyone to be cast aside. As the days passed, Earth prepared for the inevitable. A fleet of ships, led by the Explorer 7, began to form a defensive perimeter around the Virilian colony. The humans knew the Galactic Council would not simply allow them to protect the Virilians without trying to stop them. But Captain Hayes had a plan. The Virilians had little in the way of defense. Their technology, while advanced, was focused on peaceful energy manipulation, not warfare. They had long ago given up the idea of fighting. But humanity, with its ingenuity and willpower, began to teach the Virilians how to defend themselves. Together, they began to develop energy shields that could protect their colony from any attack. The alliance between humans and Virilians grew stronger every day. Humans taught the Virilians how to adapt their energy abilities to create powerful defensive barriers, while the Virilians shared their deep knowledge of light and energy with the humans. The two species worked side by side, building not only a defense against their enemies, but a strong bond of friendship and mutual respect. But while the alliance between the two species flourished, the galaxy watched with growing concern. The Galactic Council, made up of the most powerful civilizations in the universe, was not willing to let a young species like humanity defy them. They began to move their fleets closer to Earth, preparing for what they saw as the inevitable clash. The Council saw the Virilians as nothing more than a liability, and they were determined to put an end to the alliance. The leaders of the Council were divided. Some believed humanity should be punished for their defiance. Others, however, saw the humans as an unexpected force, one that could potentially shift the balance of power in the galaxy. The Council was worried. The humans had proven themselves resilient, and their determination was unmatched. They could not be easily defeated. In the quiet of her ship's command center, Captain Hayes spoke with her crew about what was to come. "We're not backing down," she said, her voice strong and unwavering. "We made a promise to the Virilians, and we will keep it. Whatever happens, we will protect them." The crew nodded in agreement. They had come to understand what was at stake. This wasn't just about one species. It was about standing up for what was right. It was about proving that no one, not even the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy, could decide the fate of an entire race without consequences. Days later, as the first ships from the Galactic Council entered the system, Captain Hayes received another message. This time, it was from the Virilian Elder who had first welcomed them. "We understand the risk." The Elder's voice echoed through the comms system. "But we will not let you fight for us alone. We will stand beside you." The words were a quiet promise, but they were enough to strengthen the resolve of the human crew. The Virilians, once a race of outcasts, were now allies in every sense of the word. Humanity's stand had become their own. The stage was set. The fight for the Virilian race and for humanity's place in the galaxy was about to begin. The galaxy would soon learn that humanity was not a species to be underestimated. And this time, it wasn't just the fate of Earth on the line. It was the fate of every species that had ever been cast aside. The calm of the galaxy was shattered when the first wave of ships from the Galactic Council arrived. The fleet, composed of dozens of enormous warships, moved toward Earth with terrifying speed. Their mission was clear: to stop humanity from interfering with the Virilian race. The Council had made its decision, and now they would enforce it. Captain Linda Hayes stood on the bridge of the Explorer 7, watching as the enemy fleet grew larger on the ship's sensors. Her heart raced, but her mind remained focused. She knew the Council was coming, but she wasn't about to back down. Not now. The lives of the Virilians and the future of humanity were on the line. "Captain," said Lieutenant Ryan, her communications officer, "the Council fleet is within range. They're demanding we stand down." Hayes glanced at the screen, where the alien ships appeared like dark shadows against the stars. "Tell them we're not going anywhere," she said firmly. "We've already sent the message," Ryan replied. "They're not listening." It wasn't just a message. The Galactic Council had issued an ultimatum. Humanity was to cease its protection of the Virilians and withdraw from the system immediately, or face the consequences. The fleet that was now approaching Earth was just the first wave. More ships were on the way. Captain Hayes had expected this. She had already made preparations. The human fleet was small compared to the Council's, but humanity had always been resourceful. In the weeks leading up to the confrontation, Earth's engineers and the Virilian scientists had worked together to build energy shields around Earth's defenses, using Virilian technology to strengthen the human ships. The energy shields would be humanity's first line of defense. "We need to be ready," Hayes said, her voice calm but filled with resolve. "Prepare for battle, and tell the Virilians to stand by. This is their fight too." On the surface of the Virilian colony, the Virilian Elder stood with a group of his people, watching the sky as the first human ships launched into space. They had never fought before, but they had something more important to fight for now: survival, freedom, and the chance to be a part of the galaxy once again. "We will not hide any longer," the Elder said. "We will stand with the humans. If they fight, we fight." The Virilian people gathered their energy manipulators, devices that allowed them to channel and control the energy of light. They had always used their abilities for peaceful purposes, creating art, healing, and understanding the universe. But now, they would use those powers to defend their new allies. The Virilians could create energy fields and light-based weapons, which they would use to aid the humans in the battle to come. The first battle began when the Council's fleet arrived in Earth's orbit. The human ships, though smaller, were not unprepared. The Explorer 7 and its sister ships positioned themselves in a defensive formation, their energy shields glowing brightly. As the Council's warships opened fire, the human fleet held steady. The Virilian energy shields were not invincible, but they were strong enough to withstand the first few blasts. "Shields up!" Captain Hayes shouted as the first barrage of fire hit the energy barrier around the Explorer 7. The ship shook, but the shield held firm. The battle was fierce. The Council ships unleashed waves of plasma and laser fire, but the humans, working together with the Virilians, fought back with all they had. The human ships, smaller and faster, darted in and out of the enemy fleet, striking hard and fast. The Virilians, their bodies glowing brightly, sent waves of energy from their manipulators, creating blasts of light that tore through the Council's ships. The battlefield became a dazzling display of bright flashes and dark shadows. Yet, despite their bravery, the humans and Virilians were outnumbered. For every Council ship they took down, 2 more appeared in the sky. The tide of battle seemed to shift in favor of the Council. Captain Hayes knew they couldn't win through sheer force alone. They had to be smarter, faster. She ordered her fleet to scatter, drawing the enemy ships away from Earth's atmosphere. The Virilians, using their knowledge of energy manipulation, created dazzling light storms that confused the enemy, temporarily blinding their sensors and creating openings for the human ships to strike. The battle raged on, but the humans were relentless. They refused to give up. Their energy shields absorbed the worst of the enemy's attacks, while the Virilians, working with the humans, provided powerful bursts of energy that pushed the Council ships back. It wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a fight for something much bigger, the chance to change the way the galaxy saw them. With every blast and every maneuver, the humans and Virilians proved they were more than just a nuisance. They were a force to be reckoned with. The Galactic Council had underestimated them. The tide of battle turned when the Explorer 7 and its fleet outflanked the Council's flagship, a massive warship that had been leading the assault. Using their speed and cunning, the humans struck the flagship's vulnerable weak points, knocking out its weapon systems and causing a chain reaction that sent it into a slow, tumbling descent toward the planet below. The victory was hard-won, but the battle was not over. The Council would not give up easily, and Captain Hayes knew this was only the beginning. But for now, humanity and the Virilians had made their stand, and they had proven that together they could defy even the greatest odds. The battle for Earth was far from over, but humanity and the Virilians had won a significant victory. The Council's flagship had been destroyed, and many of their ships had been pushed back into deep space. The humans and Virilians, though battered and exhausted, stood tall. Their combined strength had proved that they were not to be underestimated. Captain Linda Hayes stood at the bridge of the Explorer 7, staring at the aftermath of the battle. The once pristine stars now glowed faintly, tinged by the debris of destroyed ships floating in space. The air on the ship was heavy with the quiet hum of systems powering down. It was a victory, but a costly one. They had won the battle, but they knew the Council would not simply give up. They would return. Captain, Lieutenant Ryan's voice cut through the silence. "We've received a message from the Galactic Council." Hayes took a deep breath. She had been expecting this. "Put it through." The screen flickered for a moment, then displayed a stern-looking alien figure. His uniform marked him as one of the Council's higher-ranking officers. He spoke with a cold, commanding tone. "Humanity, you have won this battle," he said. "But understand this. The Galactic Council will not rest until your interference with the Virilian race is stopped. You have made enemies today. Do not expect this to be over." The message ended abruptly, leaving a quiet tension in the air. Hayes turned to her crew, determination in her eyes. "They're warning us, but we will not back down. This is our fight, and we will finish it." Despite the threat of further attacks, the mood on the Explorer 7 was one of cautious optimism. The battle had proven something important. Humanity and the Virilians were a powerful force when they worked together. The Council had underestimated their unity. The Virilians, though still a peaceful species at heart, had proven that they could defend themselves when necessary. The Virilian elder had approached Captain Hayes after the battle, his glowing eyes filled with admiration. "You humans are more than we ever expected. You do not fight for power or greed. You fight for justice, for life. We are honored to stand with you." Hayes nodded, a smile crossing her face. We're stronger together. This fight isn't just about the Varillians. It's about everyone who's been cast aside, forgotten by the galaxy. The Virillian elder nodded in agreement. We will fight for what is right, just as you have. The next few days were filled with preparations. The council may have pulled back, but Captain Hayes knew that they would return, and when they did, the battle would be even fiercer. The human fleet had been bolstered by the addition of Virillian technology, and together they continued to improve their defenses. Human and Virillian scientists worked side by side, developing new energy shields and weapons. The Virillian technology was unlike anything humanity had ever seen, and its potential was staggering. The energy manipulation abilities of the Virillians allowed them to create weapons of light that could pierce through the toughest armor, and their energy shields were nearly impenetrable. We need to be ready for anything, Captain Hayes said as she gathered her senior officers in the war room. The council won't give up, and neither will we. But if we want to win this fight, we need to change the way the galaxy sees us. Lieutenant Ryan spoke up. We've already proven that we can stand against them. The council will have to think twice before they try to attack again. Captain Hayes nodded. Exactly. We need to make sure that the rest of the galaxy knows that we won't just sit back and let the council decide who lives and who dies. We have to send a message of hope. The crew worked tirelessly to prepare for the next phase of the war. The Virillian energy manipulators were integrated into the human ships, giving them new capabilities. The energy shields were enhanced, making them stronger and more efficient. With every new innovation, humanity and the Virillians grew closer as allies. But Captain Hayes knew that their efforts would not be enough on their own. They needed more allies. The rest of the galaxy had to see that humanity's fight was not just for the Virillians, but for all those who had been oppressed and forgotten. The council could not be allowed to continue its reign of power. One evening, after a long day of preparations, Captain Hayes sat alone in her quarters. The weight of the situation was beginning to settle in. She knew the next battle would be their hardest yet. The council would come with everything they had, and they would not show mercy. As she sat by the window, gazing at the stars, a thought occurred to her. This was not just about protecting the Virillians. This was about protecting every species that had ever been rejected or pushed aside. Humanity had already shown that they would fight for what was right, and now it was time to take that message to the rest of the galaxy. We can't do this alone, she whispered to herself. We need the galaxy to join us. With newfound determination, she stood up. The battle was not over. It was just beginning. Captain Linda Hayes knew that the coming days would be crucial. After the victory against the Galactic Council's first wave, the human fleet had gained valuable time. But that time would not last forever. The Council would regroup, and they would come back stronger than before. Humanity needed more than just its own fleet to win. They needed to form alliances with other species who had been oppressed, abandoned, or ignored by the Council. Captain Hayes sat at the head of the war table aboard the Explorer 7, surrounded by her senior officers and Virillian allies. The lights in the room were dim, casting long shadows over the maps and holographic displays in front of them. The mood was somber, but determined. We've proven we can fight, Lieutenant Ryan began, looking over the tactical displays. But the Council will keep coming. If we want to win this war, we need to build a coalition. We need to show the galaxy that we're not just a small, weak planet. We're a force to be reckoned with. Captain Hayes nodded. Exactly. We can't defeat the Council alone. We need allies, other races that the Council has wronged. We have to show them that they're not alone anymore. The Virillian elder, who had become a close advisor to Captain Hayes, spoke up. The Council has made enemies of many. There are races that have been pushed to the edges of the galaxy, races that have been hunted, forgotten, or ignored. They will stand with you if you ask. Hayes leaned forward, her fingers tapping the edge of the table thoughtfully. We don't have much time. We need to act quickly. The first step is reaching out to the other species, making contact, and letting them know that we stand with them. We can't wait for the council to come back for us. We have to make the first move." The Virilian elder nodded again. "We will help you. Our technology can reach across vast distances, and our energy manipulators can send messages of hope and unity." With that, the decision was made. The Explorer 7 and its fleet would begin sending out messages to the far reaches of the galaxy, contacting other races that the Council had oppressed or abandoned. The message was clear: humanity is here, and we will stand together for a better future. We will fight for you, just as you will fight for us. As the days passed, the first responses began to come in. Some were hesitant, unsure whether they could trust the humans. Others, however, were eager to join the cause. There were the Archon, a race of peaceful beings who had once been hunted by the Council for their natural ability to manipulate sound. The Zolnar, a nomadic species whose homes had been destroyed by the Council's greed for resources, and the Oliths, a warrior race that had been pushed to the fringes of the galaxy, their homeworld taken from them by the Council's expansion. "We have gathered 3 new allies," Lieutenant Ryan reported, his voice filled with hope. "The Archon, the Zolnar, and the Oliths have pledged to stand with us. More are on the way." Captain Hayes felt a weight lift off her shoulders. This was the beginning of something important. The galaxy was beginning to unite. Species that had once been divided by fear or mistrust were now coming together, united by a common enemy, the Galactic Council. However, the Council had noticed the growing alliance. Their spies were already at work, trying to sow distrust among the new allies. It would only be a matter of time before they launched a full-scale attack on the united front that was slowly building. "We need to be ready," Hayes said. "We don't know how long we have before the Council strikes again. We need to train our new allies, teach them how to fight as one." The next few weeks were filled with intense training. Humans worked alongside the Archon, the Zolnar, and the Oliths, sharing their knowledge of space combat and tactics. The Archon, with their ability to manipulate sound, developed new ways to disrupt enemy communications and sensors. The Zolnar, though not known for their fighting skills, were excellent at scavenging and repairing equipment, keeping the fleet's ships in top condition. The Oliths, fierce and skilled warriors, trained the others in combat techniques and strategies. The training was grueling, but necessary. The enemy would not wait for them to be ready. Captain Hayes knew that every day spent preparing was another day of survival. They had to make sure they were stronger than ever before. "We're ready," Lieutenant Ryan said after the final round of training had been completed. "Our allies are stronger, and so are we. The Council won't know what hit them." The message of unity was spreading like wildfire across the galaxy. The growing alliance was a beacon of hope for those who had suffered under the Council's reign. As more species joined their cause, the Council's power began to wane. The tide was turning. The battle for freedom was no longer just about Earth or the Virilians. It was about the entire galaxy, and humanity was leading the charge. Captain Hayes stood on the bridge of the Explorer 7, looking out at the stars. Her thoughts were clear. They had done the impossible before. Together with their new allies, they would do it again. The Council would fall, and the galaxy would be free. "The time is coming," she whispered to herself, "and we will be ready." The time had come. The galaxy was united, but the Council would not go down without a fight. After months of preparation, the newly formed alliance of humanity, the Virilians, and their other allies was ready. They had trained, strategized, and built their strength. Now they had one goal in mind: to stop the Galactic Council once and for all. Captain Linda Hayes stood on the bridge of the Explorer 7, staring at the holographic map of the galaxy. The Council's main fleet was moving toward the heart of the Alliance, their flagship leading the way. It was a massive ship, equipped with the most advanced weapons and shields the Council had ever created. If the Alliance was going to win, this would be the battle that decided everything. "All ships are in position," Lieutenant Ryan reported, his voice calm but tense. "We've gathered every ally we could find. The Council won't be able to ignore us now." Captain Hayes nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. She had fought many battles, but this one was different. This wasn't just a fight for Earth or the Varillians. It was a fight for the entire galaxy. Every species that had suffered under the Council's rule was counting on them. There was no turning back now. "The fleet is ready," Captain Hayes said, turning to her crew. "This is it. We hold our ground, no matter what. We show them that the galaxy will not be ruled by fear. We will not let them decide who lives and who dies." The bridge crew nodded in agreement. The Oliths, the fierce warriors, had taken the lead on the ground defense, ensuring that any enemy forces who tried to land on allied worlds would be met with resistance. The Zolnar, the engineers and scavengers, had outfitted the fleet with the best technology they could provide. The Archon, with their sound manipulation, had developed weapons capable of disrupting the Council's advanced technology, giving the Alliance an edge. The final battle began as the Council fleet entered the system. The sky above the Allied fleet was filled with the shadows of their ships, each one a symbol of the Council's power. But for the first time, the Alliance stood ready, unafraid. "Deploy shields," Captain Hayes commanded. "Prepare to engage." The human fleet, now reinforced with the advanced Virillian shields and weapons, formed a defensive line, while the Virillians used their energy manipulators to create massive light shields that protected the fleet from the Council's first barrage of fire. The Council's weapons struck hard, but the Alliance's defenses held strong. "This is it," Captain Hayes said, gripping the arm of her chair. "We pushed them back." The battle raged on, and the Alliance fought with everything they had. The Council's ships were formidable, but the Alliance had the advantage of unity. The Virillian energy blasts ripped through enemy ships, while the Oliths fought fiercely on the front lines, holding their ground against any attempt to land enemy forces. The Zolnar's repairs kept the fleet in fighting shape, even as enemy fire struck. One by one, the Council's ships fell. Their advanced technology could not keep up with the ingenuity and determination of the United Alliance. Every blast from the human ships and their allies struck true, pushing the Council's fleet farther back with each passing minute. But the final test was yet to come, the Council's flagship. The massive ship, heavily armored and armed with the deadliest weapons in the galaxy, moved toward the heart of the Alliance's fleet. It was the Council's last hope. If they could take down the flagship, the rest of the fleet would fall. "Captain," Lieutenant Ryan said, his voice urgent, "we've detected a weak spot in the flagship's shield. If we hit it just right, we can breach their defenses." Captain Hayes's mind raced. This was their chance. If they failed, the entire fleet could be lost. But if they succeeded, the war would be over. "Send all ships to attack formation," Captain Hayes ordered. "We go after the flagship." The Explorer 7 led the charge, with the rest of the Alliance's fleet following close behind. Together, they launched everything they had at the flagship's weak spot. The Virillian energy blasts and human laser cannons struck the weak point with perfect precision. The Council's flagship shuddered as the shields flickered and collapsed, allowing the Alliance's ships to pierce its hull. With a final, explosive blast, the flagship of the Galactic Council exploded, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. The remaining Council ships hesitated, their morale shattered. They had lost their leader, their most powerful vessel. The Alliance had won. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy was free from the Council's oppressive rule. The galaxy was no longer a place where power-hungry beings could dictate the fate of entire species. Humanity and its allies had shown that unity and hope could overcome even the darkest forces. Captain Hayes stood on the bridge, watching the aftermath of the battle. The Council's ships were retreating, their fleet broken and scattered. The stars beyond the battlefield were peaceful once more. "We did it," Lieutenant Ryan said, a smile on his face. Captain Hayes nodded, her heart swelling with pride. "We did it together." The galaxy had been saved, not by one species alone, but by many. Humanity had stood tall, fought for what was right, and changed the course of history. The message was clear. When the galaxy stood united, no force could stand against them. And as Captain Hayes looked out at the peaceful stars, she knew this was only the beginning. A new era had dawned, one where the galaxy would no longer be ruled by fear, but by hope, unity, and the strength of those who believed in a better future.